这个可以了。
可以了。
嗯。
让我下吧。
嗯。Hello everyone. Oh, the same problem as last time. Okay. Welcome to our channel. This is SVbony official website. And good morning, afternoon, or evening. I think we are already familiar, right? I have appeared many times, and in this month, we introduced a lot of products about used for the planetary observation and how to choose. For example, how to choose the right filters and the planetary cameras or telescope and so on. It's my pleasure to see that you guys are very interested in it, and someone messaged me for advice on preparing, and it's really encouraged us to keep doing it, and cause you think our video or live stream is helpful for you. And today I will introduce you about our latest product, the SV505 color camera, which is a color planetary camera. For experienced astronomy enthusiasts, I think it's not be very attractive, cause I even don't need to introduce too much, cause they can through their introductions we show and to judge its quality according to. It's up to you to consider or to buy it whether or not. But for the beginners and the starters in astronomy area, if you are planning to buy a planetary if you are planning a recent planetary observation and want to buy a new planetary camera, there are a few things that I think you should be aware. And first of all, you need to know this. 没声音吗？有摄像头更模糊。现在应该可以。他会这样的话，他会看到那个幕布。哦。你得往这边坐点。First of all, you need to know this specification when you buy a new camera. The first is the sensor, the make or model of the actual sensor inside the camera. And the third is the resolution. You know, the image resolution is the amount of individual pixels that makes up the resulting images product from the camera, usually measured in max pixels, million of the pixels. For example, the 16th megapixels is also sometimes measured with what as the height of the total pixels. And the third factor is that the sensor size. The sensor size is the physical dimensions in merit of the sensor's effective image area. The larger a sensor is, the wider the field of the view it has, and vice versa, or a small sensor will have a narrow field of view. This figure is sometimes experienced as full frame and other common consumer camera sensor size. And the first is about the sensor diagonal. The sensor diagonal is the physical measurement of how many millimeters are between the opposite concerns of a sensor. And when closing a camera from deep sky astrophotography, it's important to know what the image circle of your telescope or additional optics like a reducer or filter, and you need to make sure the sensor diagonals is smaller than your image circle. And if you don't, it will likely result in irregular starts towards the cancer of the image and possibly vaccinating or ducking of the axis of your image. And the fifth is about the pixel size. The pixel size is the physical size of the pixel and measured in micro. And for deep sky astrophotography, a larger pixel and are usually better as they gather more light pure pixel. But this typically comes at the trade of the lower resolution. For planetary imaging, a smaller pixel size is usually better. But it can depend on the telescope used. Not surprisingly, a larger sensor size can result in large pixel while still keeping resolution high. And the sixth is about the back-forth distance. And you need to know the back-forth distance specification on camera. It means the distance in millimeters from the sensor to the tree where the camera are attached to the imaging tree. And when using corrective optics such as a reducer, a field factor, or common correctors, back-forth spacing is essential to keeping the focal plane folds, and you need to ensure round starts throughout the image. And to find your final back forth distance, first you need to find out the distance of back forth that your corrective optics required. For example, the back forth is about the 55 millimeters, and then subtract the camera's back forth distance. For example, maybe it's about the 17.5 millimeters. That should figure out how much spacing you need. Add it, and the result should be the 37.5 millimeters. That's the 6 factors maybe you need to pay more attention when you consider choose a new planetary camera if you are a beginner. And next, maybe you have some questions. For example, maybe you will think that which is the best for almost all planetary imaging application. Our suggestion is that the cold planetary cameras, because it's really an excellent choice for beginners and advanced planetary imaging alike. It's unlike the monochrome cameras. The cold camera don't require a closely filtered wheel and filter set to produce a color image. The field wheel and the field set is truly expensive if you want to buy a set. And previously, monochrome planetary camera could outperform color ones with more resolution. That may have been true a few years ago, but it changed to interpolation allowances, and sensors have allowed the color planetary cameras to essentially match their monochrome counterparts. Another reason it's about the monochrome had an edge over color was that it could image into the near infrared part of the spectrum, which was very useful from the planetary Jupiter's atmosphere for some imaging purpose. Cameras like the new camera, for example, about the SV505 cold color camera, it has the increasing the sensitivity in the near about the IR range for the proposal. And for the reason above, we recommend most astrophotographer, especially for the beginners, going with our color planetary camera for planetary imaging at first. Hello, I see your comments. Welcome to our live stream. Thank you. And the third question, maybe you also will concern, is about which camera is the best for imaging in the near infrared, auto guiding or research. There, we will suggest you should have a monochrome planetary camera because they are a great choice for planetary image requiring the most precision and veracity. Although they require filter wells and filters to create a color image, the monochrome cameras can provide the most control compared with a color camera. You can create a color image using standard RGB filters, and by using filters like IR path filter like the Astronomy Planetary Plant IR Pro has significant advantages. If you use IR path filters, it will allows you to capture some details in the near IR range that most color planetary camera can due to our IR card window just in front of the center. Additionally, the efforts of astronomical seeing are really reduced in the higher parts of the spectrum. It meaning that you can still image even in less than ideal conditions. Another strong use case for monochromatic planetary camera is that they can be used for both planetary imaging and actual guidance. For example, like the SV305 Pro camera is not also can be used as the planetary imaging and also can be as the guiding camera, since cause they have the actual sensitivity to pick up the fat stars for guiding. Lastly, they are the choice of researching for for their increased sensitivity across the entire spectrum. And maybe you will ask, which camera is better for deep sky imaging, or color, or monochrome camera? It's like the SV305 and Pro vs the SV505 color camera. And our suggestion is that because from a purely technical standpoint, the monochrome cameras are inherently better than cold cameras due to their sensors design. This, for example, the SV305 and Pro's sensor is better than the SV505S. To put it simply, you need to know the mono camera produce a clear and slightly sharper image than the cold camera. It can. The reason for this is that every pixel in the monochrome camera is dedicated to collecting all light data. But it's no matter its color, whereas colors camera is required a composite of red, green, and blue sensors to create a color image in a single shoot. On the other hand, in order to create a color image with a monochrome camera, you must add a filter wheel or driver along with the closely filters to produce a composed camera image from manipulate exposures. It's not surprising that it's more difficult and you need the time consuming than using a cold camera to capture all colors in a single shot. So the cold camera is more suitable for the beginners, and the mono camera is more suitable for the enthusiasts and the skills of to capture the shooting pictures is more specifically. And the cold camera color imaging is right out of the box, and also monochrome cameras still have the upper edge when it comes to image clarity. The cold telescope camera technology and the astronomy filters have gotten so good in recent years that it can be difficult to tell the difference between the images made from either camera type. But if you are just beginning to do that for the astro photography, we recommend starting off with a cold camera. For example, you can have a try about the SV505 cold camera. And this time in our live stream, we still have the coupons for the latest products. And if you want to buy it, I will give you some discount at the ending. So pay attention in our live stream. If you are already an experienced astrophotographer, consider upgrading a monochrome comments or CCD telescope camera. Okay, mention all of this, maybe you will have another question about what's the difference between a planetary camera and a gal camera. You know, the SV305 Pro camera, it can be used as the planetary or gal camera. And even though you may think planetary and gal camera using the same sensor, doesn't necessarily mean that they can be used interchangeably, because the planetary cameras feature high frame rates necessary for capturing the planet in a high details. Because of this, most planetary cameras use a USB 3 connections to support this high data transfer. But for the gal camera, on the one hand, you already have a USB 2 connection and lower frame rates. You can use some planetary camera, especially the monochrome cameras, as a gal camera as well. So do you remember that for example, our SV105 camera was about its USB? Did you remember that? It's about the 2.0, right? But for our the 305 Pro and the M Pro, it's all it's USB 3.0. So it cannot be used as a planetary camera, but also as a gal camera. Besides the camera itself, you need to know when you are shooting a planets. You need to use some software to capture it. Unless you are a visual enthusiastic, you will need a few different software applications to capture stock and precise edit your planetary image. And fortunately, a few of the software are free. For example, for capturing the planetary images, the file capture is a more popular choice, and the fact is true. The most people will use the file capture as their software when they want to process their pictures. And like the deep sky image, the planetary image are best when you start them to reduce the noise. And software like PIP is designed for pre-processing the planetary imaging before starting by selecting the sharpest frames and grouping them. Once you have finished in PIP, you can bring the images into the workspace or audio stockers for stacking. Finally, you can accurately process or edit the image to your Astronomy link in software like the Jump or Audio Photoshop. So it's not so easy for the beginners to capture the planetary objects. It's not easy just to buy a camera and you can do it. You need to learn about how to operate the software and to enrich your equipment, not only your camera. In addition, as a conclusion, besides you need a planetary camera, you also need to buy the barrel or the filters. And there are many ways to attach your camera to your telescope, and this depends on which kind of camera you are using. And here are a few of the most common cameras and ways to attach them. The question, as before, many people ask them through their emails, and we all have the answer for them. And now we will still to explain that if you want to use your smartphone to connect the telescope and your camera, it's need a smartphone adapter to catch to the camera eyepiece, to the telescope eyepiece. And the second situation, if you want to attach the DSLR or mirrorless with APS-C smaller sensor, maybe you need a T-ring for your camera band. But if it's about the full-frame sensor, you need the wide or M38 T-ring for your camera band. And for most telescope cameras, it's usually attached visa include the adapters. So even the adapters is small or cheap, but it's important for all the equipment you have. And the mini planetary cameras, it's usually slided into a 1.25 inch ports. Can you see me clearly now? Okay, the last two questions maybe you are interested. The first one is that which is better for deep sky or astrophotography, or gradual DSLR, or mirrorless camera, or dedicated astronomy camera. You have to know that the dedicated astronomy camera with onboard coding will be able to outperform than the DSLR or mirrorless camera because they can keep the sensor cool over a long exposure. It's critical for keeping noise level low. It helps capture these extremely filled details that make deep sky image really come to life. However, unlike the DSLR or a mirrorless camera, its dedicated astronomy camera don't not have a screen or built-in battery. It means you need to or capture computer of some kind and power source to capture the images. And the last question is about which should I choose between the CMOS and the CCD telescope cameras. And we suggest that it's through the CMOS and CCD sensor cameras are quite different, and they also share a lot of similar takeaways. For one, they are both digital camera sensors, and both can reduce the fantastic image for astronomy photography. While the CCD-based cameras used to range super mil in astronomy and still hold a slight edge, the CMOS cameras have been catching up rapidly. To most amateurs, though it can be hard to tell a difference between images when comparing side by side. The bottom line is that if you are doing planetary imaging or deep sky imaging for your own enjoyment, most astrophotographers go to with the CMOS camera. And if you are using the camera to take scientific measurements for an institution, maybe you want to consider a CCD camera. It's all about the introductions about how should you choose a planetary camera. And I told you before, we have the coupon for the latest new products about the SV505 cold camera. If you buy it, you will get a $30 for this, and the code is the SV0824. I will comment it. Okay, thanks all you guys to watch our live stream. If you have any questions, you are welcome to join our Facebook groups and message to me. Okay, that's all. See you next time. Goodbye. See you next time. Goodbye.